Good morning, everyone. I am Lakshmi, and I'm the Executive Director of Education at Sannam S4. Sannam S4 specializes in education, in-market representation, transnational education, and enrollment support services in South Asia, Southeast Asia, and the USA. I wanted to say a big thank you to Rendall and EJ for inviting me to participate in this great initiative. I'm truly delighted to be sharing my coffee with you all and spend a few minutes chatting about what I'm seeing here in India, where I live and work. So I have decided to divide this session into 5 segments, looking at the policy landscape, emerging learner attitudes, agency sentiments, emerging TNE landscape, and the EdTech landscape. We will spend maybe 2 to 3 minutes on each of these segments. So firstly, the policy landscape. You can't escape the policy landscape when you are talking about the higher education space in India. So the world's second largest source market for sending students overseas has had significant changes take place in the last 18 months, accelerated by COVID and the sudden tabling of the new national education policy in July 2020. So India got a new national education policy after 34 years. Since then, we have witnessed a range of policy shifts, which I believe will open up the Indian higher education space for some very interesting models of collaboration. Obviously, COVID has accelerated the pace of change in almost all sectors, and nowhere is it more visible than it is in education. India, as many would call us, the big elephant, has started moving very rapidly in the education space. And the acceleration has been enabled by the rapid digitalization, which has been a necessity, and well-funded EdTech companies moving into the degree credential space. So the national education policy, in fact, encourages institutions in India to look at collaboration models for capacity building, internationalization, and for bettering the curriculum. So the basic tenets of the new NEP, as we call it, are institutional restructuring and consolidation. Those of you familiar with the Indian higher education landscape, you would know that there are many types of institutions available here in India. The structure and length of our degree programs, the 4-year degrees are going to be a possibility, moving beyond just the engineering and other professional courses. And already many universities here in India are starting to implement the 4-year degree program. Light but tight regulation by a single regulator for higher education called the Higher Education Commission of India, HECI. India would definitely like to catalyze academic research of the highest quality. And last but not the least, would want to encourage via this policy efforts towards internationalization of the local institutions. The policy also talks of India's ambitions to having international branch campuses, but the regulatory architecture for this is yet to be released. Interestingly, the current regulator, the University Grants Commission, has already released draft regulation on academic collaboration and also on the academic bank of credits, which is like a digital locker that you can use to store your credential and port that credential between institutions that are members of the ABC. As India recovered from the second COVID wave, there was a cabinet reshuffle in July 2021, which resulted in a new Minister for Education, Minister Dharmendra Pradhan, who has also been entrusted with the skill development portfolio. So for the first time, we have a Minister of Education who is responsible for initiating and implementing policies across the skill space and the education space. The second area that I think you should keep an eye on are about the shifting learner attitudes here in market. So I want to spend a few minutes talking about this primarily because this has got implications for international institutions that want to engage with this market. COVID has changed the higher education landscape here in 4 different ways from a learner perspective. One is that the hybrid learning models are here to stay. Parents and students have adjusted to online learning at both school level and college level. EdTech players have become more mainstream and very visible. Government-funded institutions are joining hands with international and homegrown EdTech providers to take their curriculum to a wider audience. Learners, as usual, they want immediate gratification. And universities, for example, we know are not that agile when it comes to their ability to satisfy granting immediate credentials. Hence, they are turning to edtech providers, as in the learners are turning to edtech providers who can offer them credentials that can make them more employable. And India, as we all know, has always been a market that is focused on return on investment, very much so. The boom in data science and digital marketing jobs and learners. Again, another trend that we are seeing. There aren't enough specialists available in data science and digital marketing that can fill the requirements that are appearing on a day-to-day basis across the entire spectrum of employers, primarily because we've all had to digitize and embrace technology at a much faster pace as a result of the COVID constraints. The third area that I want to draw your attention to is the agency landscape. Many institutions in Canada do work with agents, and traditional brick and mortar agents have had a hard time during the pandemic here in India. First 6 months went in figuring out working across different states of India, which were all having very different disease trajectories. There were many redundancies. Some decided not to have virtual events, hoping that things will go back to normal sooner than later. But slowly and steadily, agents have emerged to deal with the new world. They have found new ways of working. Traditional agents have also had to face the onslaught of well-funded agent aggregator models, as well as online agency models that have emerged as disruptors. Agent events have been a successful business model for many, but with virtual platforms, making those events more accessible and getting better as each day passes, agents are spending a lot of time working hard at generating and nurturing a pipeline of students who are no longer able to walk into their offices. So we have been conducting agent sentiment analysis for India for the last 18 months. And the latest one, which got published end of July, actually shows that the agents are spending a lot of time now training their staff and in upgrading their technology and enabling themselves to operate in the new world. Whether these are work process tools or social media, they have embraced all of these to keep up with the changed market conditions. And the latest survey I wanted to share with you, that 43% of them felt that Canadian institutions and the Canadian government have done a good job of managing and communicating around the impact of COVID-19. Obviously, the lack of direct flights from India because of the COVID wave, etc., that is a cause of concern. But having said that, that is going to improve in the coming weeks and months. The sentiments definitely have improved, and many agents who primarily focused on Australia and New Zealand have proactively incorporated Canadian and British universities and institutions in their portfolio. Then the fourth area that you should be aware of as you are looking to engage with India is the emerging transnational education landscape here in India. So we have one of the youngest populations in the world, a fast-growing middle class, which has got an increasing appetite to receive high-quality education and also very high aspirations. So India has long been a market of interest for TNE providers. However, strict regulations and lack of clarity around TNE arrangements have meant that in the past, many of these provisions have not really managed to recruit students at scale. But that is now changing as a result of the NEP. So the new NEP and the policy announcements being made in rapid succession, they are making both public and private sector institutions in India look at collaborative models very closely as a way to access better quality home students, and also as a way to build capacity within the institution and internationalize very quickly. So the new national education policy, in fact, calls for India to be a global study destination, providing premium education at affordable costs. So to achieve this mission, the policy has signaled that Indian institutions should partner with institutions around the world that are amongst the top 500 in the world rankings. So a number of models are starting to be permitted under the new national education policy, such as credit recognition and transfer, research and teaching collaborations, faculty and student exchange, and also, of course, the mention of the international branch campus. So in response to these regulatory changes, we are seeing a number of exciting collaborations that are starting to happen between Indian and international institutions. And at Sannam Expo, we have just launched an AI-enabled TNE matchmaker in August of this year to support international universities in finding suitable institution matches across 9 countries in Southeast Asia and South Asia based on their courses of interest. This is still at a beta stage, but we are hoping that this tool will also enable institutions to find meaningful partnerships in a shorter span of time. Last but not the least is the EdTech play here in India. So when we talk of India these days in the context of education, you of course cannot ignore the boom that EdTech has witnessed. COVID literally became the catalyst for this. The market size for EdTech in India is projected to reach about US $3.2 billion by 2022 and US $10.4 billion by 2025. But we actually think that it will be much more than this. There are 4 EdTech unicorns in India. 2 achieved the status of unicorn this year, in fact, and there are potentially 5 more in the pipeline. So these are companies that are operating in the entire education value chain and have increasingly started looking at degree credentials and are actively looking to bring international qualifications at palatable price points to India. And they are also setting up very interesting models of offshore, onshore learning, which appeal to the value-conscious Indian audience. So, with all of this that are taking place here at a rapid pace, higher education space remains as exciting as ever, full of opportunities. Obviously, in a place like India, which is very diverse, has got a large audience, it of course comes with its own sets of challenges. But having said that, the space has turned super exciting. So I hope you found this chat useful and have thoroughly enjoyed putting this together for you. And I wish you a wonderful day. Thank you, BCCIE, for having me as a guest in this coffee conversation. I wish you all the very best.